Okay, so in this session, we are going to discuss a rock, paper, scissors game using Python. Okay, so we'll play a rock, paper, scissors game with computer. So for that, there are certain rules. There are certain steps that we are going to implement. So these steps are mentioned over here. So these are the steps which we have to follow, and then we'll create a program. But for now, by the way, the program is already created over here. I'm not going to explain it directly. Before that, we'll learn these steps one by one. Okay, so very first, we'll display the game rules. Okay, so whatever the game rules are there, for a formality purpose, we'll display that rules. In a second step, we'll ask user for his choice and store it inside a variable. So we'll ask user his choice. That means whether he want rock, or whether he want a paper, or whether he want a scissor. Okay, so whatever the choice of user, that choice is stored inside a variable. Okay, in a third step, we are going to generate a random number for a computer choice. Okay, so this is how to generate a random number. We are not going to discuss this right now. We'll discuss this in a later part of this particular video. Now, the fourth step is to store this into a variable. So the random number which is generated by a computer is stored inside a variable. So now we have a user choice, and now we have a computer choice. Okay, so if now these are the three important conditions from which we are going to decide who is the winner, whether your computer is the winner or user is the winner. So using these three steps, we are going to learn. Uh, okay, so this is your first condition. If user input if user input is equal to rock and computer choice is equal to paper. So computer choice is, by the way, automatically generated by a random number. Okay, so if input is rock and computer choice is paper, or, so I'm using a logical operator or. So and here I'm using logical operator and. So I hope you know the concept of logical and logical or. In case of logical and, this particular equation evaluates to true only if both of these condition are true. Okay, if you know the truth table of and get, true output is true. If any one input is false, then output is false. Okay, so here I'm applying a condition. If user input is equal to rock and computer choice is equal to paper, or user input is equal to paper or computer choice is rock, then who is the winner? In that case, a paper is the winner. Okay, so this condition is exactly opposite of this condition. Okay, now what I'm doing here is, the whatever the outcome is there, that outcome, I'm storing that particular outcome inside a variable called as result. So if a paper wins, in that case, the result, or you can say the outcome, is stored inside a variable called as result. Now, similarly, I'm checking one more condition over here. User input. If user input is wrong and computer choice is Caesar, or vice versa, like user input is Caesar and computer choice is rock, then in that case, rock is the winner, and store this outcome into a variable called as result. If both of these conditions are false, then our winner is Caesar, and again we are going to store that particular thing inside a variable called as result. Now compare the value of user input and result variable. Okay, so now what we are going to do is, we are going to check the value of user input and this result. Okay, this result, if both are same, that means who is the winner? User is the winner. If both are not same, then in that case, computer is the winner. Okay, and after that, we'll again ask user whether he wants to play more, whether he wants to play more. If he says yes, then we'll repeat this particular block from step number 2. So we'll again ask for a choice, we'll again generate a number, we'll again compare the things, and it will move on. Okay, so by the way, this is all about your steps. Now we'll see the code for each and every steps. Okay, so here is the code. Okay, right now just ignore this thing, this thing. Okay, just ignore this thing. Okay, now the first step is what? Display game rules. Okay, the first step is what? Display game rules. Okay, so see, this print statement, this print statement is responsible for displaying the rules. That means if there is a match between rock versus paper, then the paper is the winner. So likewise, I'm just printing the rules for a formality purpose. Again, this is your optional step. Now the second is what? The second thing is ask user for his choice and store it inside a variable. So can I say that here I want to take an input from a user, right? So in order to take an input from a user, there is a one function called as input function. So input function is somewhat similar to your scene function of C++, or you can say that scanf function of your C language. Okay, so with the help of input function, you can take an input from a user, but by default that value is in a string format. Okay, so the default value, or you can say whenever you take input using an input function, the data type of that inputted thing is string, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm printing certain thing. Okay, print, enter a choice, one for rock, two for paper, three for scissor. Okay, so if I want to select paper, then I have to press 2. Okay, if I want to select rock, then I have to press 1, number 1. Okay, so in this case, in this way I'm taking an input from a user. Now input function, so this function is responsible for taking an input, but that input is by default in a which format? A string format. So we need to convert this into an integer. Why integer? Because I'm taking 1 for rock, 2 for paper. So obviously that thing should be in an integer format. 1, 2, 3, 4 are your integers, right? So I want to convert this. Now it is my responsibility to convert this inputted thing into an integer. Okay, so for that you have one method called as int method. So your int function is responsible for converting a given thing into an integer. So if now whatever the value is there, that value is now converted into integer, and I'm storing it inside a variable called as user choice. So now the user choice is stored in which variable? User underscore choice variable. Okay, now we'll discuss this thing now. While we'll discuss this while loop. Okay, so there can be a situation where user can enter other user can enter 4 or 5 or 6, which is nothing but your invalid numbers, because user input can be either one for it can either be 2 or it can either be 3. So in this case, if user enters 4 or 5 or 6 or -1 -3, then those outputs are invalid ones, right? So in this case, if what I'm going to do is I'm just checking a while user choice greater than 3 or user choice is less than 1. That means if this particular user choice is invalid, then what I'm going to do is I will ask user to enter a input number again. So in this way, see, again I'm doing the same thing. I am again prompting a user. So this thing will get executed only if user enters other than 1 2 3 over here. Okay, now I hope this is clear. Okay. Now, if user choice is equal to 1, if user choice is equal to 1, then I'm storing a string called as rock inside a variable choice thing. Similarly, if user choice is equal to 2, then store the paper inside choice name. Okay, so paper, rock, and scissor, here they are nothing but my strings. So I'm just storing these strings inside a variable called as choice name. Okay, now I'm printing user choice over here. Your choice is a choice name. Okay, so if user enters one over here, then choice name will become rock. Okay, so the value which is stored inside a choice name is rock, and that value is printed over here. Okay, now it's a computer turn. Just I'm printing this string called as, now it's computer turn. Okay, now we'll see the third step. Generate a random number using random module for a computer's choice and store this into a variable. Now I want to generate a random number. So in order to generate a random number in Python, you have to import one module. Okay, so the module name is known as random. Okay, so the random module is responsible for generating a random numbers, and there are so many methods which are defined inside a random module. Okay, so before using that particular methods, we have to import it. So in order to import any module in a Python script, the syntax is import followed by name of the module. So here I want to import random module. That's why I'm writing import followed by random module. Okay. Now, if I want to generate a random integer numbers, okay. So if I want to generate a random integer number, then for that I have one method called as random integer. As you can see, this is a method. This method is responsible for generating a random numbers of integer type. Okay, so I have mentioned two parameter inside a random integer method. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm specifying what I'm okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm just specifying a range. That means generate a random numbers between 1 to 3, between 1 to 3. If I mention 5 over here, then it will generate, your computer will generate a random numbers between 1 to 5. Okay, since we want 1, 2, or 3, that's why I'm writing 1 comma 3. So 1 comma 3 means generate a random integer numbers from 1 to 3. Okay, now those integer numbers are stored inside a variable called as computer choice. Now we have user choice and we have computer choice. Okay. Now, okay. So there is one more while loop over here. Okay. Now I'll tell you why this while loop is mentioned over here. Okay. Now we'll consider one problem which is mentioned over here. What if the value of user input and random number which is generated by a computer is same? In that case, that matches type, right? So the solution is, if user inputted number and random number, if both are same, then we will generate a random number again. Okay, so we will keep generating random numbers if user input and random numbers is same. So for that, I'm writing a one while loop over here. Keep generating random numbers. Keep generating random numbers while computer choice and user choice is same. Okay. Now, uh, now what I'm doing is I'm just storing a string called as rock inside a variable called as rock choice name. That means if a random generated number is 1, then store rock inside a variable called as comp choice name. Okay, if a random number is 2, then store string called as paper inside a variable computer choice name. Okay, so similarly, I'm storing a scissor inside a computer com name. Okay, now I'm printing a computer choice name, and then what I'm doing here is checking the condition. So this is the main part. Okay, now if so, right now we are on this step. Right now we are on this step. Okay, now if user choice is equal to 1, 1 is nothing but rock. 2 is nothing but paper, and 3 is nothing but scissor. Okay, so if user choice is equal to 1 and computer choice is equal to 2, that means if user choice is equal to rock and computer choice is equal to paper, or user choice is 2 and computer choice is 1, then who is the winner? Paper is the winner, right? Then paper is the winner. So we will uh, storing the outcome inside a variable called as result. As you can see, it is clearly mentioned whatever the outcome is there, store that outcome into a variable called as result. So I'm storing the result inside a variable called as result variable. Okay, since we want to check a multiple conditions, as you can see, this is my first condition, this is my second condition. So if you want to check multiple conditions, then you have to use elif elif ladder. It is similar to else if ladder. Okay, so elif is used if you want to check multiple conditions. Now I'm defining my second condition. If user choice is equal to 1 and computer choice is equal to 3 and vice versa, like this, then in that case, who is the winner? Rock is the winner. I'm repeating, your 1 is nothing but rock. As you can see, your 1 is nothing but rock, 2 is nothing but paper, and 3 is nothing but your scissor. So if user choice is equal to 1 and computer choice is equal to 3, and user choice is equal to 3 and computer choice is equal to 1, then who is the winner? Rock is the winner. And again, I'm storing the outcome inside a variable called as result. If both of these conditions are false, then who is the winner? Caesar is the winner. Then again, I'm storing that particular output inside a variable called as result. Okay, now the outcome is stored inside a variable called as result variable. Now what we have to do is compare the value of user input and the value of result. If both the values are same, then who is the winner? User is the winner. Okay, common sense. Okay, so if the value of result is equal to choice name, so choice name is nothing but your user choice. Okay, as you can see over here, the choice name is nothing but user choice. Okay, if both are same, then print user wins. And what I'm doing over here is I'm uh, incrementing the value of user count. So by the way, a user count, by the way, I'm maintaining a score for both user and computer. So if user wins, then the user count will be incremented by 1. If computer wins, then computer count is incremented by 1. So that's why I have mentioned two count variables, one for maintaining user score and second for maintaining computer score. Okay, so if user wins, then increment the value of user count by 1 and then print the score of user and computer. If this condition is false, that means who is the winner? Computer is the winner. So in that case, increase the value or increment the value of computer count by 1 and then display your score. Display the score of user and score of computer. Okay, so now we are on this step. Now we have to ask the user whether he wants to play more. If he says yes, then repeat the same process. That means again I have to take an input. Now I'm taking an input using input method whether you want to play again. If user says yes, then again our program will jump to this part. Okay, how it will jump? Because of this particular thing, this whole code is written inside a while loop, and the condition here is what the boolean value of this particular while is what? True. That means I'm creating an infinite loop. So if user says yes over here, then it will jump to this part and it will again ask for user input. If user says no, that means if user enters n or capital N, then in that case break the particular loop. So it will break the whole while loop and it will come out and it will say thanks for play. That's it. Okay, so in this way we are going to implement our rock paper scissor game. Okay, so we'll run this program now. Okay, so as you can see, the basic rules are mentioned over here. Now my Python is asking for a user input. Okay, say suppose I want to select rock. Okay, so I will write one. Okay, so my choice is mentioned over here. Then computer choice is what? Paper. Now there is a match between rock versus paper. Who will win? Paper will win. As you can see, the computer win this game. And as you can see, the value of computer score is incremented by 1, right? So now say suppose I want to play again, so I will say yes. Why? Now say suppose Caesar. Okay, now in this case I won this match. As you can see, now it's computer turn. Caesar versus paper. And now Caesar wins. That means user wins. Your score is 1. Computer score is also 1. So in this way you can uh, keep playing. Like now, if I say no, if I say no, then what it will do? It will simply terminate this program by saying thanks for playing. Okay. Now what I will do, I will again run this program and I will put a invalid input over here. Okay. Now what if I input a 5 over here? Then in that case, as you can see, enter a valid input. So I have to specify one more input because this input is invalid one. Say suppose 3. So your size is 3. Now in this case, Caesar wins. That means user wins. And as you can see, the user score is incremented by 1. I don't want to play now, so I'll press. In this way we are going to implement this simple game. This game will clear the concepts of looping structure as well as if else statement. So if you have any doubts, please ask in a comment section.